let's talk about non-chord tones. Different cultures have different definitions of what consonance and dissonance is. Consonance is typically interpreted as being stable and pleasant sounds, and dissonances as unstable sounds that require resolution. For instance, in the medieval era, thirds were actually considered dissonant, while fourths, fifths, and octaves were considered consonant. Meanwhile, once we get to the Renaissance, fourths became dissonant and thirds became consonants. Dissonance depends upon consonance and vice versa. In the Common Practice era, roughly Bach to Brahms, the following intervals were considered consonant: major and minor thirds, major and minor sixths, and perfect unisons, fifths, and octaves. The following intervals were considered dissonant and required careful treatment and resolution. Those were major and minor seconds, perfect fourths, and any augmented and diminished intervals that you might encounter. In the Common Practice era, the following chords were considered consonant, our major and minor chords, while the following chords were considered dissonant to some degree: augmented triads, diminished triads, any seventh chord, and extended tertian chords, our 9th, 11th, and 13th chords. Dissonant notes that were not part of chords are known as non-chord tones or non-harmonic tones. These are abbreviated as NCTs. NCTs can be categorized by the motion by which they are approached and resolved, and that's exactly how we're going to deal with them in these following presentations. We're going to be talking about those non-chord tones that are stepwise, including passing tones and neighbor tones. Then we'll talk about leaping non-chord tones, including escape tones, appoggiaturas, and neighbor groups, and oblique non-chord tones, including suspensions, retardations, anticipations, and pedal points. Now, something to note, and we'll discuss as we go on in these presentations, is that non-chord tones can occur simultaneously with each other. However, in this case, they will form consonant intervals themselves, thirds and sixths, frequently. So while you can have multiple non-chord tones going on at the same time, let's say you have a chord represented by my hand here, you could have a non-chord tone going through it. You could have multiple non-chord tones going through it, but they would need to be consonant themselves. And that does happen frequently throughout the Baroque era.